Yeah. So last one of the year right here, buddy.
Back by popular demand. The Talky podcast. I mean, can you even walk on the streets anymore, Jake?
No, gosh, no. I haven't walked in the street since the middle of March. I mean,
Right. Yeah. Pandemic plus now.
That's right.
The variety. Yeah.
I got a pandemic beard going too, so I think people don't recognize me.
It looks pretty good. I shaved off my beard all the way, and there wasn't a single person that actually liked it that way. So
really, but did you like it that way? That's the most important thing.
No, I hated it.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah, it's awful.
There you
Nobody
go.
liked it. Not even.
I get you. So I'm hoping maybe if I let the beard grow, then like all the people that I don't want to recognize me won't recognize me. So like bill collectors, the IRS, those people won't. They'll be like, no, that's not Jake. He's clean shaven. That guy's a weird bearded guy. He's not.
I'm pretty sure facial recognition software is smart enough to account for strange beards. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to be a bearer of bad news for you. I don't think you're escaping too much. Okay. If the computers are in control, I should say. Yeah, hey, what are you drinking today?
Man, I'm drinking water out of. Check this out. I'm drinking water out of an really old plastic promotional cup from a great pizza place that started in Stillwater, Oklahoma, but their locations are in the region where we are here, called Hideaway.
Oh yeah.
So thank you, Hideaway. Hideaway, basically, these promotional cups have stocked my cabinet since I was in college.
I don't think you're an Oklahoman unless you have at least one or two of those cups in your cabinet, right?
Word.
Like I have one or two in use at any time in my house, right?
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. Well, I'm drinking coffee.
Nice.
Yes, leftover coffee from this morning, cinnamon dolce because
nice.
Because of course.
Did you at least warm it up? Did you put it in the microwave, or is it cold? Drinking it cold?
I warmed it up within about the last hour. Yeah, it's my pot from this morning, but I reheated this a little bit.
Did you put any like Baileys or Carol Ann's or anything in there? Is there anything special in there?
I was actually just talking about this the other day. I am not a fan of anything other than cream or foamy milk. The liquors or the adult coffee beverages that I've had, I just haven't liked any of them. Like none of them are really that good. So maybe I haven't had the right coffee drink. So that might be. But I've had Bailey's. I don't know if I really had much else, but I've had several kinds of that.
Yeah, I really enjoy sometimes occasionally. The guy I used to work for a long time ago introduced me to this really fun kind of flavored liqueur. It's hazelnut flavored liqueur.
Okay.
That you put in you can just put a little bit of it in with your cream and coffee, and it's very nice. It's called, and you would have to ask what's it called. It's called Frangelico. Frangelico. In the bottle is in the form of like a monk. It's like a monk with his, outfit on and the rope. And so that's what's called Frangelico. Very good. So let's talk about what this show's about. We need to get away from we're off the topic. We're drifting away.
Sometimes it's fun to drift, but okay. The topic of the day is sales, marketing, technology, and business strategy. And let's just sprinkle in some entrepreneurship if we want to as well. So that's the whole point, goal of this show is to eventually, after we talk about what we're drinking, getting into those topics and how they intersect, and even sometimes how topics outside of the business world where you can dig in. That's what really I think excites me, and I think it excites you, is finding where those points intersect. And so that for me is what's fun, those connections.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you reading something right now?
Am I reading something right now?
Yeah.
No, but I'm trying to read something right now. I'm trying to get back to my notes.
Oh, well, aren't you reading a book about parenting?
Oh, am I reading a book right now? Yes, yeah. I'm reading a book right now. And I'm I'm reading a book called The Conscious Parent. So,
okay.
I've got 2 kids, and so trying to be a better parent. Got this book recommended to me by a friend, and conscious parenting, kind of the core idea behind it is understanding your own ego, understanding your own attachments, your own desires and wants, and basically understanding them to the point so you can kind of like set them on a table and look at them and analyze them and understand them and understand how your own ego, desire, attachments, wants may not necessarily be what's best for your child. Your child is an independent person outside of you, right? And so how much of what I do as a parent is unconscious, meaning it's responding to my own ego, desire, attachment, wants versus, who is this person? What are their desires, wants? What are their skills? What are their gifts? Am I really getting to know that person? Seeing children as people and then parenting from that perspective. So, and it's interesting because that to me has quite a bit of crossover into the world of sales in particular, but really business in general, right?
Yeah.
Are you selling to a prospect that actually exists, or are you selling to the prospect that you want to exist? Is there an actual prospect out there who cares at all about what you care about, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the discovery process that happens is, people use phrases like product market fit. Well, what does that actually mean, right? Well, does that mean, what is your ego telling you? Does your ego tell you your product is the greatest product in the world, regardless of what the market tells you, if that's a fit for what people in the market need? Now, sometimes you might need to, help people understand why your product is a good fit, right? And that's one thing. But being kind of blind or myopic, keeps you from responding appropriately to the marketplace. So being a conscious parent, I think there's a corollary to being a conscious salesperson or even business person. The other area I see this, I would think about this in is, if you've got a business, right? Are you as a business offering things that the market needs? Are you being the business that you're actually good at? Are you being the business that you want to be good at? Right.
Right.
And what is that process like of receiving information back, reflecting on that, responding to that? What, is there a cycle for that? Right. Is there openness to those communications? So a little bit of intersection of cognitive psychology, let's call it, right? Or behavioralism or cognitive behavioralism, whatever it might be, with sales and business strategy.
There's actually, to me, it seems like there's a bit of Buddhism in there as well, just because, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist psychology, even though these kind of Buddhist psychologists, people like Jack Kornfield, who's really fantastic, Tara Brach, who I've read a couple of her books. They're these psychologists that come from a Buddhist tradition. And they talk a lot about, attachment and ego and desire and how you have to be very cognizant of those things. And so super interesting. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully it makes me a better salesperson. Now, the only challenge with all that thinking is, right, so there's always point, counterpoint, yin and yang, going back to Eastern philosophy, right? So you don't want to be so consumed with analysis of ego state, desire, attachment, want, whatnot, that you can't take action.
Yeah.
Right? As a salesperson, you still have to be able to take action, right? Yeah. So you cannot have the dreaded analysis paralysis. You've got to be in a state where you've done your homework. You've got the skill through repetition and practice and feedback that you can check your own ego state. You can potentially even observe the ego state of the person across the table from you and respond accordingly quickly. So
it's interesting.
That's the other counterpoint to being stuck in your own introspection.
Yeah, there has to be balance there. There has to be balance across the board. Like you can't, to get things done, you have to act, and you have to say, I've done enough thinking about this. Even though I'm not 100% sure, I think I've got a good enough idea that I can pull the trigger.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a sales leader that I heard, he gave a talk, and, some people have all sorts of little tips and tricks of how they size people up, right, to understand who that person is across the table from them. And he talked about how when he would interview people, especially if he's interviewing salespeople, he takes them out to a restaurant and sees how long it takes them to order from the menu, right? Are they hemming and hawing? Are they going back and forth over 10 different things? Or do they look, they see what they want, and they choose, right? Are they decisive, right? Because for him, it's very important for a salesperson to be decisive, right? Ultimately, does it matter that much what you order on this lunch interview? Like, no, right? It doesn't matter that much. If you're worried about getting something on your shirt, right? What are you mostly concerned about? Getting something that's yummy, right? Oh, I want to eat something that doesn't make a big mess on me, right? Or there too many thoughts going on. You just say, I like the enchiladas. Let's go with that, right? Or knowing that the purpose of this is to have a conversation with this person, right? So what's my purpose here for this meeting? My purpose is to have a conversation. Food is really secondary or even tertiary. Right. Order something quickly and get on to the next thing, right? So again, I'm not stuck in this world of introspection and analysis.
Hey, the deal with like ordering things that are not messy is really a thing, and it is for me. Literally, I had soup for lunch today, and I had to wash it out of my beard. It's brutal, man. It's tough.
It is. Especially when you enjoy food, like we both enjoy food.
Right. I mean, the struggle is real.
The struggle is real.
I had like bacon and potato soup, like broth right up in here. It was really, I was just saving it for later. That's kind of what I was doing. So,
What are you reading?
I am reading a book that I probably should have read according to everybody like 10 years ago. It's called, if it's even been out that long, it's called Traction. The author is, his name is Gino Wickman. And so essentially what happens is I get in these groups with these other people that are, kind of like me, these entrepreneurial groups and business groups. And like, they ask me, because we all read, we're all readers. You're a reader. I'm a leader. We just read like crazy. And so they always ask me, like, what are you reading? What are you reading right now? Like, they're always looking for something new, and then what are you reading, Jake? And I'm like, well, I'll tell them what I read, and they'll be like, hey, have you ever read Traction? You've read Traction, right? I'm like, nope, never heard of it. In every time I say that, like 4 or 5 times I've said that in these conversations, they're like, you're on drugs. How have you not read that? I've literally been either in business for myself or a business manager, business leader since 2006. Like either a manager, and I've never read this book. And so it's really interesting. I'm only about maybe 20% into it, but it purports and attempts to lay out an operating system, is what he calls it, what the author calls it, for entrepreneurial oriented businesses. So businesses that are on purpose, being clever, advanced, using their intelligence to grow quickly, like being nimble and agile in the market. But I never read it. And so it's really interesting. I'm reading it now. My partner's reading it as well, my business partner. And so I think that that was one of the things we both wanted to read as we were moving into the next year, because we're always, as entrepreneurial people, always trying to make the organization better, always trying to make ourselves better. And so that's what I'm doing. And there's apparently there's 4 or 5 books in this series that are about entrepreneurial operating system, or as the cool kids call it, EOS.
Oh, now as you're reading about this EOS, are you finding that there are aspects of this operating system that already exist within either you or your business or whatnot? Yeah. Or is there a lot of novel stuff, or is the value in putting together these things in a specific way? Or where's the value for you?
So for me, so far, yes, a lot of it we're already doing. And the thing to understand is so there are 6 elements that are kind of part of this operating system. And I couldn't name them for you yet. I haven't read it yet. I'm just literally through the first one, which is vision. But there are some of the slices of this pie that I can see, like vision. I got that. Like I got the vision. But there are some other things that are like in this, one of these, these 6 that I got nothing. I literally cannot do that. Like I don't project manage. I don't, like operationally speaking, like I'm a horrible manager in that area. Like that's not what I do. I can sell, I can communicate. There's a lot of stuff I can do, but that's one thing I can't. And there's a lot of those things where like, I think what we'll do when we finish it, like in next week, when we meet up again and we both read it, is I think we'll look at it and go, do we have all of these 6 areas covered? And if we don't, I think we'll take some action to make sure that we do. I think we do. I mean, we've got a nicely growing company, and it's, things are going fine, and, we're meeting our goals, and But still, it's always good to be trying to get better, and I don't know I think that might be partially an American thing. I think this is an American cultural thing that we are just at least a subsection of us we really are obsessed with continuous improvement, always trying to grow, and so when I've traveled, I feel like that meeting other people, even folks that are in business and kind of in the same kinds of roles that we are in, but they're maybe from another place culturally, they're not the same. It's not the same vibe. Like I don't know if it's the Protestant work ethic or, deep rooted capitalism, but we're just kind of constantly cycling, trying to get better and better and better. And that's what part of this is.
Yeah, somewhat related to that is the idea, I think it was written about in the 1800s by Alexis de Tocqueville in the book Democracy in America.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Which I don't have a quote, I don't have a paragraph, right? But I think the idea, the observation was one of the distinctive things about Americans is their ability to get together, to organize, and to get better. Right. Yeah. They want collective action. They want collective action for betterment. Right. So it sounds like you're part of a group that's, pushing that within you. Right. And then drives you to get this book. And then it drives you to want to get better again. Right. And then get back with other people and maybe help them get better as a part of that. So that being part of a community, I think is absolutely part of what, I want it to mean to be American, right. What I think it is, oftentimes when we're at our best.
Interesting. So I looked this up. Alexis de Tocqueville was intrigued by the spirit of association, which he saw everywhere in North America, came to the conclusion that there would be considerable benefits if men and women were to quote, to associate freely in everything. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, and that's one of the things that like in doing some of the training, kind of the coaching, business coaching, entrepreneurial coaching and stuff with strategic coaches. That's one of the things that they talk about some is that the real power of our system. And I mean, speaking primarily kind of capitalistic business, is that we collaborate with one another, not necessarily compete. There are people that I know that are my friends that where my company and their company services, there is some overlap. But I would prefer to collaborate rather than compete, just because there's plenty of business out there. Like there's a world of abundance outside of our world, even our COVID infested, pandemic lockdown world. There is still a world of abundance outside of our walls. And to be kind of pettily, competitive about that, I think is ultimately counterproductive. And so that's interesting. I'm going to go back and read that de Tocqueville. I think I read it a long time in college, but frankly, I smoked a lot of weed since then. So I really don't know.
Well, the reason the name sticks with me is that I used to work for United Way of Central Oklahoma, one of a nonprofit organization, part of the international body, really. And so their highest giving level society is the Alexis de Tocqueville Society. So that name has always stuck with me. And then they've got all sorts of orders as you go up and up the ranks. But really the major giving high society is called that. And so referenced in some of my nonprofit background and training as someone who knew what it meant to get together for improvement. So that power of association.
That's awesome.
Hey, you mentioned, even in this COVID infested world, I've been wondering, for you, what have you learned, or what's new for you in terms of selling in a pandemic, right? You've been in sales for a long time. Do you still feel like a salesperson? Do you not feel like a salesperson? Do you have to do totally different things? What's it been like for you?
I feel more like a salesperson today than I have ever up to this point. And I mean that in a very good way, meaning that I just am better at it. And so the thing about the pandemic, this is what I've noticed. It really, actually, I feel like that the pandemic forced me to do some things that I probably should have already been doing before. And that is taking as many of these kind of sales conversations that I could possibly get and taking them online into, the Zoom conference. That's what we're, that's our, that's the norm now. Like all of a sudden, the in-person sales meetings don't happen hardly at all. And so what we miss from that, so I feel like kind of as a salesperson, what we miss with not working in person is that we miss the there's a personal connection. There's rapport building is really important in the sales process because people don't do business, especially big pieces of business, like lots of money and risky stuff that, high risk, high reward stuff. They don't do that with people that they don't know. And they don't like, really. I mean, if you have somebody you just really don't like them, you're going to find another vendor for it. Even if it's even if it's like a big thing and there's not a lot of options, people will go out of their way to not have to work with someone that they don't like. And rapport building is super important in that sales process. And so it's more difficult, I feel like, to build rapport when you're not in the same room with a person. However, on the other side, there is a certain amount of efficiency that you get when you're not meeting in person, when you are doing everything via teleconference, like via Zoom or Google Meet or whatever you're using, Microsoft Teams. And that is that you can do like before, maybe I could have 3 in-person sales calls in a day. That's it. Because there's commute time, there's the hemming and hawing, there's the getting the coffee and, drinking the water and talking to the gatekeeper and meeting people. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that goes on. So you do 3, 2 maybe, really 2 would be 3 would be a stretch for me. So 2, because these things generally go hour and a half sometimes because we're really getting deep into details. Now, I can knock out 4 or 5 really good sales calls in a day because I don't have to go anywhere. I'm sitting on my fat rear end right here, looking into this camera and having a conversation with someone about their challenges and their struggles and what they're trying to make happen with their business. And I'm trying to figure out how can I and my organization be a hero to them? And we do it this way. So here's the thing though. I feel like the important stuff is really early when I realized that we were going to be locked down for a while. Like when that finally came to me, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a while. I think I'm going to be doing a lot of sales calls and a lot of work this way. I immediately started spending some money. I bought some lights. And so, here's the thing, one of the ways that you can overcome the lack of rapport building that comes with not being in person is to make sure that you present yourself via the technology, via the teleconference in a way that is going to be most representative of who you are, is going to present your best version. And that requires some investment. I mean, I bought some lights. I've got a big light. I've got a videographic light here. I've got another one right here. I got another one back here. I've got a good webcam, $180 webcam. It looks good. This background, I'm in the corner of my bedroom right now, but I always throw this background up because it looks good. It's cloth. I mean, look, check this out.
Right.
Cloth. But you know what? It looks amazing. I got the mic, So I probably spent around $1,000, around $1,000, kind of in that March, April time, realizing that this was going to happen. But you know what? I do tons of calls like this. I do lots of video conference calls, a lot of sales calls, present a lot, and we're doing well. We've done business with and have closed business without ever having even met people in person. And we do that a lot now.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing that as much a year ago. Pre-pandemic. So I think there are some positive things. The next book that I'm about to get into, which I think maybe we'll talk about in the next Readers or Leaders segment in a week, is by a guy named Scott Galloway, who is he's an NYU professor, College of Business. He's marketing primarily, but he talks a lot. He's written a lot of books about about tech companies, and he's got a couple of podcasts that he does that are really good. So he does one called the Prof G Show that's great. He's got one called Pivot with a longtime technology reporter, really, really smart lady named Kara Swisher. Really love listening to them. Anyway, so he's written a book called Post Pandemic, and I got it. It's on my bookshelf. It's my next one after the Gino Wickman. But I do think what we have seen, what's happening from a sales perspective in the pandemic is, if you're a salesperson, and you're not doing everything you can to make sure that your presence online, meaning your presence like this, just in a web conference, but also the presence when people are searching for you. Like, who is this guy that's trying to, like, if you're doing outreach and, you're trying to get to somebody, make sure that all your stuff is buttoned up, because they're probably going to search for you. Like, why is this Jake Fisher guy freaking emailing me and calling me? He's going to look me up, and honestly, the first thing he's going to see is my Twitter feed, and he's going to I'm not going to talk to that jerk at all. What a weirdo,
After he stops laughing, first he'll laugh for 10 minutes, and then he'll complain. And then he'll be like, "Yeah, how come I can't watch the Thunder game on TV?"
I know. Oh my gosh. So I went on a rant last night. So all the regional Fox networks, like, they're only on one streaming service now. Like, we can't get the Fox, all the Fox regional, where a lot of the NBA games are, a lot of the NFL games, a lot of these kind of the secondary broadcast rights, these Fox regional broadcast networks had. And now they're like, you have to basically get traditional cable or AT&T to get them. And so I freaked out a little bit on Twitter. So
it was very entertaining, and a lot of people joined you, and they had a lot of fun with it, I feel like.
They did.
So one of the things about selling in the pandemic is, like, you really just can't forget the fundamentals and the basics, right, of being in sales. And you said it earlier, one of the most fundamental things to remember is that people want to do business with someone that they like.
Yep.
Right. And in general, who do people like? People like people who are like them. Right. Yeah. And so even in this time and era when you can't be in front of someone and literally match and mirror them, literally see what they're doing and try to build rapport that way and understand them that way. Right. There's still ways to do that. Right. And it's still the fundamental blocking and tackling, the nuts and bolts of being in sales. So understanding who it is that you're talking to, doing your research, understanding the background of that person, showing up prepared, so that you can have those conversations, right? In particular for your big important meetings, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will say the challenge for me in selling in a pandemic is that I don't think I have necessarily a superpower in sales, but I do think one of my distinctive competencies is that I'm very good at being in a room and reading a room. Mm-hmm. So I can go in a room and I think I can understand what's happening, what's being said, what's not being said. And I think I can help move things forward by physically being present. And it's not something that is extremely easy or even a little bit easy to replicate on a web call for me. Maybe other people are great at it and they've figured it out. But when I can go on and visit a client or a prospect on site, I didn't do a whole lot of that before the shutdown happened, but just about everybody that I did visit in person on site, we've either done, we've maintained our business or have done more business or new business with them, right? And it's just extraordinarily helpful for me because a big part of how I try to sell and is I really try to understand what is the actual problem that I can solve.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for me to really get there. Right. And you need to be with someone and understand what's going on. And for me, this is all good. We're adapting, we're succeeding, we're growing. Life is good. However, I'm going to be pretty darn excited to have 2 meetings a day and have them be an hour and a half long and drive between those two sites. I'll be excited to get back to that world. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And for me, it's more about like, I want to get out and I'd like to have our team together physically every once in a while. We're all been working from home and fortunately our business is such that that's very easy to do. And frankly, in some ways it's better. It's more efficient, like I mentioned before, but I am with you about wanting to get out and see people sometimes. I've got a couple of groups that I meet up with either on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, just folks that I've known, kind of business groups and things. And we've been doing mostly via Zoom, that's how we've been doing things and meeting. I just want to see those folks, so anyway.
Absolutely.
Hey, do we want to talk about some stories?
We can talk about some stories. Sure.
Awesome. This Solar Winds. Is that it?
Solar Winds. Yeah. We talked about it. We talked about it last time. And I think the general story from last time's was, hey, this is a really big deal. Right. And it may be even bigger deal than people realize. Yeah. And so I don't know all the intricacies of it, but I do have a couple more pieces of detail just from a couple articles online that I read. So SolarWinds is a company, and they have a product that manages IT resources. So in the marketplace, managed services, managed IT services is kind of this line of business, right? So you need someone to update your computers and make sure you have the latest Office, and if a network goes down, somebody checks it, right? So Orion is a piece of software, I think, that does that kind of stuff, right? And so those pieces of software themselves. This piece of software that SolarWinds has, Orion, has 33,000 customers. So a lot of customers, right? And those pieces of software are periodically updated. And updated with new security patches, new features, all those kinds of things, right? So apparently it's in one of those updates where this code was infected. And so not everyone updated their version of the software, but for those that did, about 18,000 of those customers, had these updates that left them vulnerable to hackers. And I think that includes, clients like Microsoft, right? Cisco, Intel, Deloitte, other organizations that use this product, and were potentially at risk, right? And because it was done in such a way with so much stealth, people didn't know about it for many, many months. And so people didn't know whether they were hacked or not, which is a really, really scary thing. Right. And so as we talked about, I'm not sure how much we talked about it last time, but this is a major concern because, the product itself that was hacked, is the product that you buy to make you feel secure.
Yeah.
So if your security blanket, right, is infected with COVID, right? Here you go, have a security blanket. It's got a disease in it, right? Like, how do you feel secure? Like, how will you be secure? How do you know if you're secure? And that to me goes back to, Battlestar Galactica. There's my instinct is like, separate me from everybody else to some degree, right? Or how can I verify, right? There's this whole business out there around security, penetration testing, and all the rest of that. It's not something that the average business, I don't know if your business, have you ever bought security testing from a company that does that?
We've not bought security testing, but we have that. We have those protocols in place, in order to keep our stuff locked down.
Yeah. So that's the big question, right? How secure are we? How well do we know? With how much confidence can we say that we are secure? There's some saying about what's really dangerous in the world isn't what we know. It isn't what we know that we know is right. It's what we know that we know is right, but is actually wrong. Something along those lines. And so that's in general how I, feel and think about this whole topic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It's an unfortunate thing. And I think that I feel like that there is definitely merit and value in this idea. And sometimes you have to disconnect. You have to disconnect your stuff from the world, and I think just in order to maintain security, but also personally to maintain sanity. I think I talked about this before, but I am finding myself having to disconnect from technology. Like, I'm in a world of technology. I live digital marketer. Like I'm in front of screens all day long, and I'm an SEO guy fundamentally. So that's all digital. I'm like a nerd. I'm a digital nerd. I'm in front of, you might as well implant a freaking, chip in my head. However, I'm finding myself as time goes by that I really am relishing and enjoying the time away from the screens. And when I'm done, and have gone to I've stopped buying ebooks and I'm buying physical books now. Like when I'm the Gino Wickman, that's a physical book, Like I'm buying, there are certain things, like there's a point at which you have to push back and be like, okay, I'm not going to be completely ruled by kind of digital devices and the hyper connectivity that comes with it. Sometimes I just want to sit in a chair and read a book. I'm going to, I mentioned this as well. I just ordered it. It should be here tomorrow. I'm going to a paper diary, like a paper planner. can't do my calendar on paper because of the business. Have to leave that on the, on the computer. But every other thing like notes and planning, and I can do all of that on paper, write it out, and then literally to digitize it, just take a picture of it and load it up to the appropriate place. And I've got a thing. I've got a friend, local guy. He's an entrepreneur, really smart guy, nice guy named Michael Massid. If you ever run into Michael Massid, tell him I said hello. But he's got a company, smart guy. He's an academic kind of, along with being an entrepreneur. And he's a smart guy. He has got a company called Joony Journal. It's Joony.
Interesting.
And so what he has done, it's interesting because he has done a lot of this research that indicates that we are better, like we are better, we engage better with information when we're writing it physically on a piece of paper rather than when we're putting it into a computer typing it. And I thought that was interesting. So
that is really interesting. One of the things that, just reinforcing that I always felt in school was I would take physical notes, college and classes, right? All the time. Mm-hmm. And usually the act of taking the notes was enough, right? Yeah. Listening to it, writing it out, and then reading through it once, you're activating multiple different learning styles. And you're absolutely right? That's a natural learning style. Typing isn't a natural learning style.
No.
Right? Now, will we adapt over time and might it become? Maybe, I don't know. But that's interesting.
Super. But the SolarWinds thing, I think this story, according to kind of the experts that I'm hearing and reading about, like these guys are saying that story is far from being over.
Oh, I think that's correct, right? So when we don't know the full implications yet, that tells you that that there's a whole lot more to come, right?
Yeah.
Because at some point they will say, the hackers sat around for months and they did this. We're not to this point yet, right? And that's really where it's going to get very, very interesting.
Yep. Yeah.
So one other thing that I was going to chat about, if we have one more second to chat about it, was I was going to ask you. There's kind of an old idea in selling that you keep going until you get a yes, right?
Yeah.
And then you wait till you hear 3 no's before you stop, trying to push and sell. And I've heard that, right? I've heard that from direct sales folks, door-to-door sales folks, guerrilla sales folks, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of curious, in your history of your sales career, what's been your, training and then practice and experience with, welcoming a no?
Yeah. I think that whole wait till you hear 3 no's thing is a really, that's a very, it's an old idea. We've talked about this, but what it also is it just doesn't that's an indicator to me that the salesperson is not operating from the perspective that they should be operating from. A salesperson should always be operating from the perspective of what's best for the prospect. And if what we're selling is not best for the prospect, then they're not a good prospect for us. We need to refer them to use our expertise to help them get where the solution that they actually need. And we need to waste no more time with them and move on and find those prospects that actually we can help. I was a traditional salesperson from like 2002, 2003, kind of the martini lunch, schmoozing kind of long-term relationships, really only have there were 5 or 6 people that sent all the business to me, and that was it. Very different kind of sales than what I do now. And in that space, sometimes you get that whole, kind of old school no, 3 no's and a yes. But really what changed my ability to be able to sell, what changed me in the way that I think about sales, was some training that I did 5 years ago with, it was fantastic training with two smart instructors, a guy named Dan Tyre, who was maybe the 8th employee at the HubSpot software company, the marketing software company that is our primary partner, and another guy there named David Winehouse. And so those 2 guys really we did some intense. It was just 3 of us or 4 of us in the group, and it was intense weekly. It was 5 hours a week for 12 weeks. And they really helped me understand, like, so really what a salesperson should be doing. Like, and I think part of why I've been very successful, not to toot my own horn, but we've been really successful, like selling a lot. And it's because, first of all, we're looking out for what the prospect needs. And if we're not what they need, if what I've got's not what they need, then we need to get them to what they do need. And oftentimes I'll know better what they need than they will. And so I can hook them up with something, be like, hey, you need to look at this kind of company. Like, here are 3 that I'm aware of. Here are 3 phone numbers. Here's 3 contacts. You should go this direction. Ultimately, that's just the right thing to do. It's the golden rule. But also it will come back to you.
Right.
I think the next piece of it is that because what we do, both you and I, the products that we sell, the services that we sell are complex. They solve complicated problems. Selling is not about pressuring someone into saying yes. Great selling is about making sure that we can fully understand what it is that the prospect needs and then deliver that. And are we the ones to deliver it? And this is how we're going to deliver it. And you have to do it in a way that's going to be amenable to both sides. You have to sell it in a way where it's, like you can deliver on it and the profit margin's got to be right, or you can't continue to be in business, but it has to be done in a way where the return on investment makes total sense for the prospect. And so it really is, to me, it's all about, there's this joke you always hear people say modern salespeople and business development reps use this word align a lot. They use all kinds of this word align. It's all about, hey, I'd like to, like in the outreach emails I get from salespeople, it's like, I'd like to see if our organizations have alignment. And I laugh at that because it's like, it's a buzzword. It's like synergy. But the truth of the matter is that's the correct way to think about it. It's not about like, can I get you to do something you don't want to do? It's about can what you have and what we have, can we put those together into a scenario where we 10x you, like, and you're going to pay me for that, but you're not going to care about paying me because you're 10x'd. Like, you just grew your revenue 1,000% or something like that. It's like, that's the thing. Right. So sorry, I could go off on this for a while. I'm not.
Well, that's great. Well, I think we're probably getting close to the end of our podcast time for today, but what it's for this particular episode. But I think what that leads me to is closing. And so connecting that to closing techniques. So my go-to right now in this pandemic world, for a while I was really like wanting to try to carry every opportunity as far as I could, but I've gotten more settled in, and now at the end of the first call with a prospect, if it's an introduction call, the last thing I'm going to say and what I'm going to send in the follow-up email if I don't get a clear answer is, it is not going to hurt my feelings in any way if you know right now that we're not a good fit.
Yeah.
And it's not going to hurt my feelings at all if you tell me right now, you know what, it's not going to work. I'd love to know why. I'd love to know what the reasons are, so that I can see if there's anything I can do about those reasons. But you'd be doing me a big favor if you tell me you're evaluating 3 people for my services, and if we get off this call and even 10 minutes later, if you think, my company isn't going to be on the list, right? Just let me know. That way I won't hassle you, and I'll be able to focus my time and energies elsewhere. And I wish you the best. So, and oftentimes what I can get from that is people would say, well, listen, it's a no, but it's a no because of this, as opposed to just hiding from me and then telling me a no 2 months later. It's really that permission giving, right? Not that I'm in control of that person, I have to give them permission, but it's that kind of relational permission giving that I'm okay with it, right? And it's also about coming from a position of being okay, right? I'm okay. Whether or not this still happens, I'm okay.
That's right. Yeah.
And then because of that, they might feel more comfortable in sharing, an objection or a reason. Now, every once in a while, that's something that I can work on, right?
Yeah.
Well, is it price? Well, how far off is the price, right? Let's see if there's some other things we can do to make it work, right? Is it, what else it might be, right? But getting that information and being a part of the decision-making process as opposed to a recipient of a decision, right? That to me is what you want to go for.
Yeah. You know what? I agree, I couldn't agree with that more. And I think that one of the ways that one of the really most powerful things that a salesperson can do in that process of getting someone to open up and making sure that everybody, like the prospect, feels safe and saying, you know what? I don't think what you do is going to be exactly right for us, to make them comfortable, is just to show them value along the way. I do a similar thing in that I oftentimes, when I'm meeting someone, especially when I know that they've got to be, almost everybody that we deal with have got some kind of an entrepreneurial background. Like they've got aggressive goals. And if we're even really kind of having a conversation, and one of the things that I do right off the bat, it's like the second slide in the deck. And this is, I literally say, these are the 5 things we look for in an ideal client. And if you can't tick all 5 of these, tell me now. Because right. I'm going to get out. I don't want to waste your time and tell me which ones are not right. And I'll try to help you find the right provider. Right. And that really seems to put people off. Or, in a good way. It's like, well, he's just telling me what they do. One of the other things that's similar to that as well is at the beginning, I oftentimes like to let people know, I let them know, our industry is disappointing. I mean, the majority of my colleagues, they are. I'm sorry. My industry is disappointing. It is I work for, it's a marketing firm, especially digital marketing firm. People purport to know how to do things, especially search engine optimization. They purport to know how to do it. They say, oh yeah, we know we got that. And what they're doing is they're literally just contracting that out to somebody overseas who's maybe doing link building or something that's not really appropriate for them, but they're charging them. So anyway, not going to go off on that as well. But point taken. I think that giving people an out, making the prospect feel comfortable with you because you're just honest and open with them, right? Just super candid,
Right. Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
Awesome.
And then, like you said before, that works because fundamentally you've got the mindset of abundance. Yeah. There's enough out there for everybody. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to go work pretty hard for what could be my piece, right? Or what could be our company's piece, right? But there's enough out there that's the right fit. And if you work really hard at making the wrong things fit, they'll fit. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
At the beginning, they'll fit.
Enough. The problem of getting business that you hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That keeps you, that's, oh gosh, yeah, I got that. But I wish I didn't have that.
Yeah. I like this idea of if there's one thing out there, one thing out there, you and I could go fight over that one thing, or you and I could work together and turn that one thing into 3 things,
That's a great idea. I like that a lot.
Cool.
What a great idea. Cool. Well, it's good talking with you, Jake Fisher.
You too, Mike Slack. Is your real name? I always wondered this. Is your real name, legal name, is it Michael Cornelius Slack III?
Well, if you're not part of the secret society, you don't get that information.
Don't know. Oh my gosh. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Do you have the gold stamped ring with a ruby? I've said too much. I really shouldn't bring it up.
Yeah, you probably should. Yeah. The Illuminati's going to get you. So.
Oh yeah. The Illuminati, there are foot servants actually.
Nice. All right, then. Well, I guess so. We have a website, I think. We probably ought to give those things, talk about those things. I think it's talkypod.com. TalkyPod.com. Talky Pod. You can subscribe there. You can listen there. You can find us pretty much anywhere where podcasts are found. I would encourage you to subscribe. We're pumping these things out about one a week. Mm-hmm. And so if you're into sales, into marketing, into entrepreneurship, into technology, business strategy, if you're into good whiskey, that too, please give us a subscribe.
That's awesome.
Mike, I hope you have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we're even on just about every service you can possibly use to listen to podcasts. I think we're on the iTunes.
Yeah, we're on the iTunes.
the Spotify.
We're on the Spotify.
The YouTube.
Oh, my Lord.
We're on all the things.
All you have to do is go to the Google and Google us.
That's the easiest thing in the world. You don't even have to do that. You can just say to the Siri.
That's right. Tell your Siri you want the YouTube. So anyway. All right, buddy. Hope you have a happy new year.
You too. Thanks, man. Take care.